The film begins in a mysterious and ethereal realm, where a man catches sight of the gates to the afterlife. However, as he approaches them, they abruptly close. Standing before him is a towering deity skillfully playing a musical instrument called a pipa. The man insists on being granted access through the gates, but instead, the god uses his pipa to perform enchanting magic on him. On Earth, we are introduced to a young boy named Din Song, who lives with his mother. Din befriends a mischievous girl named Lai Na Wang, who resides with her affluent father, a man who seldom finds time for his daughter. The two children forge a deep bond over the years, but their friendship is abruptly interrupted when Mr. Wang relocates with Lai Na, leaving Din feeling lonely once again. However, they promise to keep their friendship alive. Fast forward 10 years. Din now works as a food delivery person and dedicates more attention to his job than his own studies. He asks his friend why to bring him his assignment at home. During his final delivery, Din finds himself at a demolished building where a homeless man requests his order. Surprisingly, the man gives Din a teapot before seemingly vanishing into thin air. Returning home, Din joins his mother and their neighbors for dinner, where everyone believes he is a brilliant young man destined for a successful career. However, Wai unintentionally reveals Din's habit of skipping classes, angering Mrs. Song. That night, Din purchases a cheap suit and gazes at a billboard featuring Lai Na, who has become a model. Deeply missing her and yearning to reconnect, Din's suit tears apart, symbolizing his doubt that Lai Na would still consider him a friend. While expressing his regret about not keeping their promise, the teapot he acquired begins to shake, unexpectedly summoning the wish dragon named Long Zhu. Long Zhu asserts himself as Din's new master, albeit underwhelmed by Din's ordinary teenage status. Just outside the alley, three villains, a bald man named Pockets, a short henchman, and a tall one, emerge. They have been sent by their employer, Mr. Wang, to retrieve the teapot. Pockets skillfully bypasses the guards with his kung fu skills, ultimately encountering Din holding the teapot. They give chase, but Din, yearning for the ability to fight, makes a wish that Long grants, granting him kung fu skills to fend off the villains and escape. Unbeknownst to them, the trio must report back to their employer, Mr. Wang. The following day, Long accompanies Din, urging him to utilize his remaining 2 wishes. Long reveals that he has been trapped in the teapot for a millennium, serving 10 masters, with Din being the final one. The dragon shadows Din as he embarks on a journey through the city, reacquainting himself with the modern world and the numerous changes that have occurred. Additionally, Long develops a fondness for shrimp chips. While stuck in traffic in a cab, Long grows frustrated with the congestion and employs his magic to fly himself and Din away. Even though Din initially wishes for an escape using the wishes, their journey eventually leads them to Lai Na's home on her birthday. Hoping to capture her attention and rekindle their friendship, Din decides to use his second wish to transform himself into a wealthy prince-like figure, allowing him to attend the party with Long acting as his servant. When Din approaches Lai Na, she fails to recognize him immediately and treats him politely, just like any other guest. However, during the dance where Lai Na and her father are supposed to share a moment, Mr. Wang is absent. In an attempt to save Lai Na from embarrassment, Din improvises a magic show with assistance from Long. Unfortunately, Lai Na retreats to her room in tears. Din tries to reintroduce himself to her, but Buckley, Mr. Wang's assistant, interrupts their conversation by video call. Seeing Din, Buckley pretends to be casual and lies about his name, claiming it's Dan and that his family owns a chain of dumpling restaurants. Thinking Din is a wealthy suitor, Buckley arranges a lunch date for Din and Lai Na. After the party, Long persists in persuading Din to use his final wish, confessing his desire to go back to heaven, as he claims to have been a beloved human emperor. When Din returns home, he appears eccentric in front of his mother due to Long's interference. The next morning, Pockets and his goons wait outside Din's apartment, unaware that Din arrived home with Long. They tail Din as he heads out for his lunch with Lai Na. They eventually reach a restaurant where Long urges Din to act snobbish and pretentious towards the staff, but it only repels Lai Na instead of impressing her. Before Lai Na can decide to leave, the villains invade the restaurant. Din utilizes his kung fu skills to fight off the attackers and ensures Lai Na's safety. They manage to escape but find themselves amidst a vibrant festival. Long disguises himself as a paper dragon to shield Din and Lai Na, while Pockets and his goons deploy their own dragon to engage in a battle. However, Din successfully leads Lai Na to safety, away from the chaos. Alone together, Din confesses his true identity as Din and admits to lying because he believed Lai Na wouldn't notice him as a commoner. Lai Na recognizes the neighborhood they are in as the one she used to live in. They decide to visit Din's apartment, where Mrs. Song recalls Lai Na and warmly treats her to a meal, amusing the curious neighbors who peek in. Lai Na spends the rest of the afternoon with everyone, participating in making dumplings and enjoying the company. Later that night, Lai Na informs Din that she must leave and feels compelled to uphold certain expectations and standards due to her father. Din is hurt but understands her decision. He asks Long to relinquish his third wish and simply make him rich. Long then shares his backstory with Din, depicted through ethereal imagery. As the emperor, Long yearned for wealth and respect, desiring to surpass all other rulers. However, his pursuit of power left him isolated and unhappy. His daughters were married off to other royal families, living in misery while his son perished in war. When Long passed away, there was no one to mourn him. Upon approaching the gates of heaven, he was denied entry by the god at the gate, who is the same old man that had left the teapot with Din. As a consequence of his greed, Long was transformed into a wish dragon. Long believes he failed his previous masters in understanding the true meaning of life until he encountered Din. Meanwhile, Mr. Wang arrives at the scene accompanied by Pockets and the goons, having discovered Lai Na's presence with Din. He requests the teapot to save his struggling company from financial ruin. However, Pockets betrays Mr. Wang and seizes the teapot for himself. He knocks down Din, causing Mr. Wang to fall from a great height. Pockets then becomes Long's new master, utilizing his first wish to turn everything he touches into gold. Lai now returns to find her father on the verge of death. Din, determined to confront the villains, swings down on a wrecking ball. Amid the struggle for the teapot, the tall goon wishes for an abundance of puppies to open a pet store, while the short goon desires longer legs. In an accidental turn of events, Pockets inadvertently transforms the van into gold, leading to a fierce battle between him and Din as Long carries them through the sky. Pockets gains the upper hand, nearly turning Din into gold. However, Long sacrifices himself, taking the blow and turning entirely into gold. As a result, everyone plummets downward. Pockets accidentally touches himself and meets the same fate, shattering upon impact with the bridge. Meanwhile, Din falls into the water and is unable to save Long, now encased in solid gold. Long finds himself back in the spirit world, having regained his human form. The Peepa god, who appeared earlier, is prepared to allow Long to enter the gates of heaven. However, Long expresses his desire to return to Din to make use of his third wish. The god agrees, but under one condition. Long returns to Din, and together they wish for Mr. Wang's well-being. As Din wakes up, he finds Lai Na by his side, grateful for the outcome. Meanwhile, the two goons, having fulfilled their wishes, part ways. Din and Lai Na accompany Mr. Wang to Din's home, where Mrs. Song warmly invites them for dinner. Mr. Wang compliments Mrs. Song on the delicious soup, claiming it to be the best he has ever tasted. Some time later, Mr. Wang and Mrs. Song venture into the restaurant business, specializing in soup and dumpling. Din and Lai Na work together there, nurturing their friendship. Din stumbles upon the teapot once again and engages in a conversation with Long, who informs him that he must now serve another 10 masters. Din bids his friend a heartfelt farewell and places the teapot on the back of a cart, being ridden by the human Peepa god.